Mr. Bill Jabjiniak. Welcome, Bill. I don't know.
Come on now.
I was just a guess.
Your top 10 list forgot one thing. It's also home of Old Style, the beer.
Is that right?
Sure, Old Style beer. Come on now.
I'm not familiar. Is that carried next door? Well, then we don't talk about that.
Neil gets mad at me all the time when I talk about brands that he doesn't carry. So what can I tell you? You know.
What? Where are you from originally, Bill? Are you a Chicago guy?
No, I'm a Pennsylvania guy. So there are a bunch of Eastern Europeans from Pennsylvania as well. But it was funny to, all of a sudden you realize how big the population gets to be when you're in Chicago, and it's like being home again. So hey, Chicago's just like Northeast Pennsylvania in a lot of ways.
Is that right?
Cold.
Yes.
I was with the president of the Cubs yesterday, and he referred to it as the polar vortex. And I'm going, yeah, I'm glad I'm out here in the sunshine and enjoying a little bit of this. I always like to say it, I haven't shoveled anything since I left the East Coast. But that's not all true. If I'm economic development director, you got to shovel it once in a while. What can I say?
Well, try not to shovel any for the next 20 minutes here.
Before you go, I was listening to Greg, and I listened to Crane yesterday, and Crane Kenny's the president of the Cubs, and he talked about the team a little bit, and I'm listening to Greg think about, sandpaper, Vaseline. The Cubs could really hire a special assistant. You really need to get Theo a little bit of help along the way, because, I don't know, the look for this year, it's improved, but it's certainly not a championship team from what I can see from here.
Is it a rebuilding year? Is that what we're going to call it?
I think that's another official title of rebuilding year. But you have to remember one thing. So I was in the Northeast, up in New England, when the Red Sox won their first title in 2004. And the saying that came out of that is, "In Theo we trust." Well, Theo Epstein is now your general manager, president of the Cubs baseball operations, and it's you have to have a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in what's going to happen with the Cubs in the coming years. They're really building. They've got some talent. It's just down in the minors at this point. You're probably another year or two away.
Well, you think about it. I mean, it's hard for the small market teams to win. Well, Chicago's a huge market. Yeah. You got Wrigley Field, which is just iconic. Everybody, anybody ever been to Wrigley Field to see a game? Wow. It's just so much fun. And then you've got probably the best minor league facilities in the world right here in Mesa. So they've got all the pieces of the puzzle. It's just putting it all together.
And that's part of the story. It's building from down within. And Sean, throw up the slide on the spring training complex. Let me just talk about that if we can for a minute.
Sure. Because
this is more, everybody gets to go to see the stadium a little bit and the 15,000 seats that are there. But 5 years ago when the Cubs walked in and happened to be with the mayor and the city manager, and hey, we really want to talk to you about a new spring training complex. And we were going, really? What's wrong with the one you have? Hohokam looked pretty good to me. But then you need to step back and think about the investment. You hear what Greg was making in 19 or 16.5, and you hear the millions of dollars these players earn today. They're really investments in a lot of ways. And to do that, they watch their diets, they watch the workout. So it's important to have an entire complex. And really, this is now a 12-month-a-year facility that really leads to, and you can see, there's the stadium, but there's 6.5 other fields. There's 50,000 square feet of clubhouse space. There's 20-some batting cages with all the video equipment you could ever want, and pitching mounds. I'm trying to negotiate my way into the clubhouse. That workout area would be ideal for the other 11 months of the year, but I don't think I'm going to get that one pulled off. But what's important here is after the Cubs finish spring training, there's extended spring training, so all the younger rookies stay behind. And there's the draft. And there's 200 people that come in here, 200 players that come in and work out for the Cubs. And all the scouts are here as well at the same time. And then there's the Summer League where the rookies play. And then there's the Arizona Fall League, which is where your hot prospects are coming in. There's all the rehab assignments. That's all happening here. And that's why it's a great story. We turned the clubhouse over early this past year, and they had 20 players after the season out here working out. Wow. So it's important to understand there's more than just spring training. It's really a year-round complex.
Where do the players stay when they're in town for spring training?
Well, it depends. If you're a rookie, you're trying to, hook on to a couple of guys renting a hotel room fairly inexpensively. If you're one of the seasoned veterans, you rent a house in, La Sendas, Red Mountain. Actually, a lot of them are in Red Mountain, surprisingly. They're all over the city in a lot of ways, but the ones making 7 digits can afford to rent a house and bring the family out for the month of March. So it's been great to be around the whole ownership group as well. They are truly a breath of fresh air, and I've heard both baseball and business side of the operation talk about the Ricketts family being a breath of fresh air for the Cubs and what's going on here. It's completely opposite of what they're experiencing in Chicago. They're doing battle to try to get things renovated at Wrigley Field. So this has been a completely different experience for them, and I think they're very appreciative of that.
That's great.
Yeah.
How many spring training games are there at the stadium? Ballpark?
16 home games. They play, obviously, 32 or so total for the year, but 16 here at the stadium. So, but again, if you look up at that, and there's all kinds of 16 games, but think about all the activities that can go on at the park next to it. Think about what happens the other 11 months of the year. You're looking up in that northeast corner of that map, and you see a little layout of some different fields, and you'll see a sports complex start to develop up there. That'll help drive 11 months of other activities, which we hope to be tournament-based. And the crown jewel up there is we're ready to break ground later in April for a 175-room Sheraton hotel. And that's an important story because when we were touring different facilities with the Cubs back those 5 years ago, you go out to Glendale. And while they have great plans, there's no development around the stadium. When you go to Goodyear and look at their new facility, there's no development around the stadium. Here, as soon as they complete their season, you will see the hotel break ground and go up fairly quickly. It becomes an entertainment complex. The rest of that development, that area in red, will actually be a great opportunity for, think about it as different restaurants and entertainment venues. And then the south side of that looks like an empty field is also a development site. So, Sean, real quick, when we can bounce back and forth, throw the picture up of the hotel for just a minute. So that's the Sheraton Hotel looking from the Paseo. And the Paseo is a tree-lined street between the lake and the stadium itself. Wow. And I think it's quite impressive to see. And I'll give a former council woman all the credit. She pushed for a higher quality hotel. And that's what we have. Instead of
175 rooms?
175 rooms Sheraton. Starwood's a partner with the Cubs in Chicago. And they said, hey, we want to partner with you out here. And the Cubs brought them to the table and really worked out a pretty nice opportunity there. And again, there'll be restaurants in the hotel. There'll be development opportunities to the west as you work towards the stadium. And again, we're branding it as Wrigleyville. If you've been to the Cubs stadium in Chicago, that whole area outside there is called Wrigleyville. And that's a great area just to hang out before and after a game. We're hoping to develop the same thing here. So it's a good story, a great opportunity with hopefully more to come.
That's great. Well, I don't imagine there's anybody here that doesn't feel like they're impacted in one way or another by spring training. So it's a great thing for the Valley. It's
a great thing for the Valley. It's a great thing for Mesa. The Cubs alone, this is just one team, and you've got 15 others that are here. The Cubs alone are $138 million economic impact to the state of Arizona. That's one team. It happens to be one of the bigger market teams that drive a lot, but their average stay is just about 6 nights. Just think about what that does for all your hotels and restaurants and everything else. That drives a lot of activity. So in the city, we like to refer to as March as the second Christmas, for good reason. So it's good to see. And if you haven't been out, check out the park if you get a chance. Urban fishing, there's great climbing structures. It's just a great experience along the way. We're very fortunate to have, the project came in on budget, on schedule. And the park is just another feature that we added that really, I think, just continue to be a destination for us.
That's awesome. Well, what else is going on in Mesa that might impact these folks? Any other good?
We developed its favorite fruit for the city of Mesa. It's called apple. Geez, when you
I've heard of that.
Geez, how's your iPad? No, iPhone.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we're excited. When we announced Apple last fall, it was, we knew that was special. And I will tell you, that's a beehive of activity. And this is the old First Solar building out in southeast corner. But what's important is we're seeing a lot of interest for different businesses to be around Apple. Other tech companies that are now excited to be in close proximity. Hopefully here in March, we'll have something else to announce in that part of the city as well. So we continue to push the technology corridor. You have to remember, the city's been very proactive with infrastructure, putting that in the ground, putting the proper entitlements in place, and we're fortunate to have SRP as a partner, and they have a lot of power sitting in that corner. That makes my job a lot easier to be able to sell Mesa, Southeast Mesa in particular, those technology type employers, which we all strive to reach for, look at those type of opportunities. One of the Apple representatives, and you should be very proud of your city for this one, and they used to talk about the China way. China doesn't have a lot of regulations. They've now coined a new phrase. It's the Mesa way. And while we didn't have to take any kind of development agreement to council, we didn't write a check, something like Apple's flush with some cash, we were actually very fortunate to be able to say we had the infrastructure, we just need to clear the entitlement process. Building commissioner met them, not a staff member, the building commissioner met them. At 8 o'clock one morning, their demolition permit was issued at 2 o'clock that afternoon.
Wow.
They wanted to be protected on what they're producing, and they're still very close to their vest with that, and I understand why. We were able to accommodate that, and there's been nothing but just a great dialogue back and forth. When you talk about Fortune 500, Fortune 100, this is Fortune 10. This doesn't happen too often. And to use Mesa in the same sentence as Apple tells a great story. It really does. So that's one of the things that are going on. We continue to see a lot of activity in around Phoenix-Mesa Gateway Airport. We open gates 9 and 10 here just this week. So that's exciting to see as well. We're pushing very hard for, you're going to see some reinvestment in the Fiesta Mall area. So while we have hard times when Macerich announces that they're walking away from the mall, that's an opportunity for us. And we have been fortunate to see a lot of developer interest already. It's a great location. And people who are in real estate will tell you location drives an awful lot. So we step back and say, with the bones that are there, let's make sure we run the proper infrastructure, let's make sure we're set up for the right type of businesses. And think about the banner facilities that are there. Think about the community college and how do you grow with them? Gee, maybe something called a medical district might work there. What does that do? Do we encourage more medical uses in that part of the city? Absolutely. The city's also reinvesting in that, and developers like to see us reinvest at the same time. So downtown, light rail's actually a little ahead of schedule. I'm not supposed to be saying that publicly, but I just did. So it's nice to see, hopefully late 2015. We have a painful stretch in the heart of downtown this summer where they'll actually be laying the rail. So May 1, construction crews move back into downtown. We'll put up with that pain for 4 months, but that's the slow period in downtown. So, but everything's on schedule, and then we're excited. When that completes, we're ready to go 2 more miles to the east out to Gilbert Road. So again, what that does for us is tell a great economic development story. There's a word that, we mentioned Vice Mayor Finter, and I remember coming back from, I think, the first solar announcement, and, Bill, what's next? And I'm just going, oh, already? Well, Vice Mayor, and it's all about the momentum at this point. And right now, Mesa's got some momentum. The key is to keep it going, to keep the momentum rolling. We're very fortunate. We've got a great political leadership. It starts with the mayor, but the entire council's focused in one direction. And economic development is at the top priority list, and we try to push that forward. So that's a good scene. So
that's great.
There's more, I'm sure, but go ahead.
I bet you there's, now might be a good time to answer a question if anybody's got anything. But, oh, there we go. There's a microphone coming right at you.
Excuse me, I think what the city has done for the Cubs is great, but what, if anything, is Mesa going to do when the A's move in to the old Hohokam Stadium? How did they entice them to come, and how do they plan on keeping them?
So the question is really about Hohokam Stadium, is that what I heard? So Hohokam Stadium is under renovation currently as we speak. It's going through about a $28.5 million renovation. 17.5 of that is coming from the city's / Arizona Sports and Tourism. The Oakland Athletics have invested the other roughly $10 million in the renovation of that and Fitch Park. Starting in 2015, the Athletics will be playing their spring training games at Hohokam and Fitch. So now Mesa will be home to 2 teams. We just had Ted Polakowski from the A's up in the suite here this past week, and Ted was going, can we do all this for next year? Absolutely, Ted. We're excited for the A's to be here. Actually, coming home is really what it comes down to. And I think Mesa's ready to be able to support 2 teams and the economic impact. You have to understand Oakland's a small market team. Chicago's a big market team. They draw differently. So I think Hohokam fits actually very nicely for what the A's need. And they're investing. And they're actually on a good track from a baseball standpoint. They're putting a winner on the field. That helps tremendously. So you continue to see more and more from that as well.
That's great, though. Small market, big market, American League, National League. It's a great...
nice balance.
Great, yeah, absolutely. I think I saw another. There we go, gentlemen. Hang on a second. We'll get you a microphone so we can actually hear the question.
I just have a question about, there's a building on the north corner of Alma School. You know what I'm talking about, and Southern. I've watched that area. I've lived in Mesa since '94. I purchased my house, and I've watched that area die. What's happening there?
The property you're referring to in the northwest corner is owned by WM Grace Companies. Right before I arrived 6.5 years ago, they erected a fence around the property. Property rights, as long as it's decent, safe, and sanitary, you're allowed to do that. Mayor's made a run, council member from the district's made a run at them. I've had some conversations. What do you want to do with your property? He's content to leave it as is. I can't force it. There's a lot of interest. 2 shopping centers to the west of there, former Circuit City, Bed Bath & Beyond. There is a tremendous opportunity that's been presented with a vision to turn that into 100,000+ square feet of Class A office space. Now that's what I call great use of adaptive techniques, being able to reposition some different things. We're investing in the streetscape along that corridor. That's why all the construction that's going on. We have a lot of developer interest in the mall. I will tell you, the mall will not be just a retail center. There will be other uses added to that. It's got to be a vertically integrated mixed use. Vertically, because I need to add density. Integrated, it has to be more than just retail. So you will see other uses, hopefully office and residential, on that big parcel at the mall. But you can't force the Grace companies to do anything if they don't want to. So we continue to encourage, carry on conversations, but they can afford to sit on it. They don't want to sell it. We continue to push. I know the shopping center to the east of there has actually done very well, repositioning. We're excited. We have 2 new colleges in the Fiesta Market as well, with both Albright and Upper Iowa. Upper Iowa took an empty shopping center at the old Borders store and took 13,000 square feet with an option for another 13. That's a great use of an empty shopping center. We need to continue to encourage that. You will see us being much more proactive, pushing redevelopment in that area as well. But again, just the specific corner you're referring to, we carry on conversations, but until they're ready, I can't do much.
Yes, sir. Got another question right here. Keeping you busy with the mic running.
With the 175-room Sheraton coming in, what and adding that to the lodging base already in the city, what do you expect the impact being to the existing hotels with an occupancy rate of roughly 60% or less?
You must be in the hotel industry, but I expect actually we will maintain. For us, we need to continue to add high-value, high-wage jobs, which I think will help with the occupancy rates overall. There are actually 3 hotels in your marketplace that are now announced. Last night, we rolled out our newest one, which is at Ray Road, just east of Power. So between Power and Sossaman's at the entrance to the airport is a 99-room Marriott Courtyard. Just a mile south of that, on Williams Field, just east of Power, on the Gila River Indian Community, there's another 160-plus room Sheraton Four Points product. All of a sudden, we have 3 hotels that are very active in this market. What's that going to do to the existing? I guess it really depends on your marketing opportunities. We're going to continue to push to bring more employers, more uses. I really see the product up here drawing some things away from the Scottsdale market. I see some of the employers, especially my northeast corner, who I lose to now Tempe, Phoenix, and Scottsdale. Give them another opportunity. The Hyatt Place that is at Riverview actually has one of the highest rates in their chain in this market specifically. So there are some good stories. We expect to be able to feed from not just the stadium, but that sporting complex that we talked about. Also, it's very quick to come out of southern Scottsdale, be able to occupy there or go there if you have, you go into General Dynamics, that's an easy commute from that location as well. So really, it's a partnership. We do carry on conversations with all of our hotels on a regular basis, trying to understand what they need, how do we help with the whole process. That's part of our HEAT initiative. I'm sure most of you have heard that. The T is for tourism. There's 2 T's, technology and tourism. So we continue to have some good push. Certainly, we need to continue to do more, but it's a slow process, but it's a continuous process at the same time.
Got time for one more question, so.
What's going on in Falcon Field area?
Great question. A lot of discussion about what Boeing's been doing. MD Helicopters has, I came in watching Lynn Tilton, who owns MD Helicopters, take that from, she was at one point producing 40 some odd ships a year, down to, at the bottom of the recession, about 100 people were all employed. She's now back to 300 plus and doing quite well. The challenge is we've got a very busy airport. The general area around the airport has some great bones and some great infrastructure. But why are employers going to different parts of the city? It really depends on, one, price point. There's been a large user in the market, and it's all about cost for him. How do we then translate what Falcon Field has to offer? Falcon Field would be a great office market. Where's the office market? It's not here yet. It's now starting to show signs of life. But if I need to bring, 60 megawatts of power in, do I have that at Falcon Field? Unfortunately, I don't. How do we get it there? That's what we're working our way through. We're just now embarking on a different strategic plan. The airport has one. I'm trying to broaden it, very specific to Falcon Field. And how do we really reach to employers that fit that marketplace? You'll see an emphasis continue in Southeast Corner, Downtown, Fiesta, and Falcon Field. But what's, I think, going to be very important is now targeting the right types of employers. But we also have willing property owners at the willing price points. If the market's at $5 a square foot, you can't be at $8.50. And the other big thing, this goes for the entire city, I find myself protecting our employment sites from housing development. Now, some people might not like to see that, but if the challenge before me is how do we reverse that commute? Everybody leaves Mesa and goes into Scottsdale, Phoenix, and Tempe, and others. You do that by learning to protect your employment sites, really encourage quality development, not just retail type, and think about the paradigm shift. Chase the high-value, high-wage jobs. What follows that is housing, and there's plenty of housing opportunities. What follows housing is retail. And finally, what follows retail is the almighty sales tax dollars, which is how we operate here in the city of Mesa. So a lot of different plans. We're fortunate to have a very qualified team, and the team has really grown. So we're very fortunate, but you'll see us a lot more active in things like Falcon Field and other parts as well. So.
Great questions. Now, if these folks have other questions for you after today, is there a way, can they shoot you an email? How do they get a hold of Bill Jabjiniak and say, hey, what's going on? Or would you prefer they not?
Yeah, I don't want to talk to any of you. No. I'd be more than happy, one, to be here for a while afterwards and answer questions. Okay. Two, all our information is out on the city website, and you can certainly call, email. I will tell you, getting on my calendar is not easy, but you know, there's a lot of activities. But certainly the contact information is out on the city website, and I'm more than happy to hand out business cards afterwards as well.
Well, you're making an already great city, Mesa, even better and more beautiful. And in that whole beautification thing, we've got a gift for you for being our special guest today. From our good friends at Cobblestone Auto Spa, a $100 detailed gift card.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Big round of applause, Mr. Bill Jabjiniak.